These are 8mm home movies made in the early 1960s in Vandalia, Ohio, around the Spartan Avenue in the Edgewood tract. This is my sister Chris, and she's about 5 or 6 years old. You can see the baseball field behind at Edgewood Park. It's an awful lot of people. A lot of the boys in Vandalia at that time played ball back there. It's my dad pushing it around our swing set. You can see what we call the Little Woods right behind the baseball fields there, and then in the background what we call the Big Woods. We played a lot back there, and this is our backyard. Look in the other direction. My mom in the back of our house, and there's Chris. You can see our 1956 Ford that we had there, and this is our neighbor. I think it's Debbie Middleton on a bike here with Chris on the back, and that's the Nora Drive right there going south. And this is Spartan looking down toward the west here. The Middletons lived in the house just west of us, right next door. This is my mom. Dad used to play this with my mom, wiggling her rear end over and over on the projector. He'd reverse it, then play it, and then reverse it, and we'd just laugh. There's our dog Sandy. My sister Helen, class of 1970, Butler High on the big tricycle. My sister Chris on the little tricycle, class of 1973. And the other little girl, I think, was Debbie Middleton, who was also class of 1970 at Butler. That 59 Chevy in the background is at Bill Rogers' house, and the driveway going up, the sidewalk going up there, is the Burkhart's house on the corner of Spartan and Denora. Here's our backyard. See, we had a gate and a fence for easy access into the park. You see there was an informal baseball field back there with a backstop on it. That conduit pipe was there for a long time. The kids used to get into it, and other kids would roll it over, and we'd roll it 10, 20 yards across the field, those of us inside rattling around in it. And this is our neighbor across the street, the Bryants. That's Mary Sue Bryant, who's maybe a year younger than Chris, maybe a little more than that. Like I say, this is the early 70s, and the Bryants moved, I said early 70s, early 60s, and the Bryants moved shortly after that. You can see Interstate 70 out in the background there. There was no fence or any kind of guardrails or anything. You could walk from the baseball fields in the park there right across the highway and into the Platte there behind the Airline Shopping Center in St. Chris, just north of St. Chris. Our dog Sandy having a little snack there. Here, this is my good friend David Bryant, who Mary Sue's older brother, lived across the street from us. David dropped out of high school and joined the Army and was killed in Vietnam in 1968. I can't remember what year they moved, maybe 62 or 63, sometime in there. That's my Aunt Norma, who lived only a couple hundred feet away from us on Denora Drive, and her son Bob just moving away. Looks like he's about a year old, maybe a little older than that, but I can't remember now what year Bob was born. Here he is playing behind our car, the 56 Ford that we had. I tried my best to put these things in chronological order, but I got them mixed up quite a bit, and it gets, I'm not a film editor, and it gets confusing trying to shuffle them around and around. So here's Chris helping Bob learn to ride a tricycle. Chris was always real good with children that were a little bit younger than her. She had an affinity for playing with kids and keeping them entertained, which I think she still does to this day. This is our front yard there on Spartan Avenue. Looks like Bob got something in his eye. Aunt Norma, his mother, is trying to get it out of his eye. Now she's going to get upset because her brother, my dad, is photographing her with curlers in her hair. This is, actually, now that I think about it, this might be over at their house. Kind of hard to tell, but as I say, the houses were only a couple hundred feet away. No, that's Spartan Avenue. There'd be a curve if it was Denora right there. There's Chris. This is in our backyard. You can see out the way there into the there was some swing sets over there in that part of the park. And Dad always used to tell us, move around. This is a movie camera, so you got to move. And this looks to me like maybe Helen just learned to ride a bike, because she definitely is riding it, but she looks a little bit wobbly. Here's Dad, Mom, me, Chris, Dad again, Sandy, Mom, Helen, Sandy again. And this is Easter morning. I don't know what year, but I think it's 1963. Helen and Chris are dressed up for going to Mass on Sunday. And the reason I think it's 1963 is because as you come over here, you'll see our car, which is an Oldsmobile. Dad bought an Oldsmobile in 1962. So I'm guessing that this is 1963. Or 62 or 63 actually. Mom's beauty salon. In our garage back there, they built a room that she was in, put two sinks and dryers and stuff. This is me. See, it's kind of a windy day. That's the Middleton's house right behind us. They were our next door neighbors the whole time we lived there. In fact, they lived there for a long time after that. Here's Chris and me on the front porch in one year. I'm playing with a little battery-powered anti-aircraft gun. I remember that thing really well. I enjoyed playing with that. All it did was go pop, 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 pop. There's Helen coming out, not thinking about the fact that it's hot and that chair has been in the sun. So it doesn't, only a moment of sitting down before we decide to jump right back up again. That little girl right there in the background next to Chris is Eleanor Bryant, who lived right across the street from us. David and Mary Sue's sister, and that's David again. My best friend. And there's Mary Sue coming over with her purse. And that's Gene, the oldest boy, who was about 2 years older than us. And now you can see, now we're back to garage isn't built. You can see some people practicing baseball back there behind us. And Dad and Uncle Bob and some of his friends put the foundation in here and got this ready. And then a contractor came in and put the garage up. But Dad and Uncle Bob and some other of their friends were the ones that did all the concrete work. Here's David and I again on the front porch. And Dad and Uncle Bob and some of his friends built those planters too. And David and I went back into the woods behind the house with wheelbarrow or wagon load after wagon load of dirt we brought back to fill that up. Here's Chris riding her two-wheeler, but still with training wheels. So she hasn't quite learned to ride a two-wheeler yet, but I'm sure it's not going to be too much longer. That's Harold Jennings, who lived on Benora Drive, class of 68. Helen and Chris coming home on a cooler day. You can see that they're wearing hats and heavy coats. This is our kitchen. You can see that they boarded up the doorway and moved it over to the east, over by the driveway side of the house. And that's Lee Uzzle, one of Dad's best friends. They were friends their whole lives, from the time they were in elementary school all the way up till they passed away. And Jo, Lee's wife, was also from the North Dayton neighborhood, and Dad knew her his whole life too. Chris coming, they're having some sort of little modeling show or something, and Helen strutting down the runway. And then next is Lee and Joe's daughter, Kathy, and now me with a model airplane or a paper airplane. And then Lee and Joe's son, Larry, who was 8 days older than me. And then here's Lee wants everybody to see his Facebook, his six-pack abs. So we spent a lot of time with Lee and Joe. And here's Joe with all three of the girls. They were often at our house, and we were often at their houses, all the way as long as my mom and dad, and of course my mom's still with us, but the Dad and Lee and Joe, as long as they lived, we always spent a lot of time with them. Again, Chris is moving because it's a movie camera. Now this apparently is getting ready to have breakfast, and that's Helen there eating the Kellogg's Okays, which I did not remember that cereal at all. And Chris is eating the more conventional Rice Krispies, which of course we all remember from back in the day. So, anybody else remember Kellogg's Okays? Because I don't. There's my dad. This is in our living room. remember those lamps, which we had for quite a few years. They had kind of a wire cage around the center pole for the wires. And I remember those quite well. And then this is me here. And I look like I don't know if I'm watching TV or I look like I'm in a trance or something. I'm not moving at all. Okay, and here come the bluebirds. The bluebirds were part of the Girl Scouts or the Campfire Girls or something like that. This is Helen. And then this is my cousin Kathy that lived just past us. That's Kathy there. And the first girl that came in was Debbie Middleton and then Helen. And they were apparently all in the same troop or den or whatever they call it in the Bluebirds. And then this is Doris Middleton, Debbie's mother, and my Aunt Norma, Kathy's mother. And you can see I got it out of order again because here Chris is much smaller and riding a tricycle. And this is Doris Middleton with their daughter Ronnie. They had another daughter after this named Paula. And you can see again Chris so eager to interact with the child, always was enjoyed being around kids. And there's my cousin Bob, who looked about the same age as Ronnie. And that's Helen with the dog. I think it's Helen with the dog. That's me on the bicycle. I think that's Helen in the red coat. There's Bob again with his pork pie hat. And then my father takes it away from him. So Bob immediately gets a weapon in order to start fighting back to get it from him. Or I don't know, maybe he wanted to go dig a ditch. That could be a possibility too. So that was Uncle Bob there telling him, you stay here. And here's Helen and Chris out in our backyard having a lunch or something. And I remember that picnic table. We had that for a long time. In fact, we might even still have it over on Stone Quarry Drive. We lived in Vandalia, here on Spartan Avenue from the spring of 55 until the spring of 65 when we moved over to Spartan. So Helen's eating and Chris is playing. Like I said, my dad always would say to him, it's a movie camera, you need to move around. Doesn't look like Chris is getting much nutrition out of this meal. And here come the Middleton girls and the Locker girls. That's Ronnie in the front and Chris wearing the hoop skirt there and Debbie in the bluish, Helen in the middle in the white, and Becky on the other side. They were all, I don't remember, Helen and Debbie were in the same class. I don't remember what year Becky was. They're all Butler High grads. And that's Becky and Debbie and Ronnie's grandfather, Doris's father, who lived over on Colebrook. And there's his car, 59, I said car, there's his truck, a 59 El Camino. And you can see there 58 Pontiac just in front of it. We're almost to the end here. Here's a winter storm here. And this is our dog Sandy. And this is about as much snow as we ever got. You can tell it's cold. And this is probably in 1963, like January or February. It's cold, powdery snow. Look at the snow, how it blows off of Dad's shovel. And here comes Kim, my littlest sister, who was born on the last day of 1962. So I'm pretty sure that this is January or February of 1963, the end.